Okay. All right. If I don't know you guys, my name is Caitlin Johnson. I've been with Q Sciences for 4 years on March 13th. So it's crazy because it's gone by so quickly. And I was able to, you might have heard Jake say this on the CEO call, that March and April are historically really good months in the network marketing industry. And that was my experience coming into March. I was able to hit executive in my fast start bonuses actually by the end of March. And that set me up really brilliantly for hitting elite that summer and bronze at the end of the summer when we had our first convention. It was in Orlando. I don't know if anyone on here was at that convention, but that seems so long ago. I have learned so much. I have gleaned so much. I am happy to share whatever skill set that I have been able to continue to pour into and get to some sort of mastery level. I am a lifelong learner. I'm always learning, and I learned so much through teaching. I'm a teacher by trade, but when I had my now 7-year-old, I wanted to be at home for this season of my life before I get back into wearing pants that are not elastic at the top. So until then, I am wearing elastic at the top. I told my husband I would wear this shirt on something recording. It says, "I work out because my husband is hot." That was his Valentine's Day present, was me walking around in public and on now. It's gonna be on the internet forever, darling. So anyway, let me screen share. If you didn't get a chance to print this out, that's absolutely fine. This is from the Bird Group. Before I go too far with this training, I did want to talk about how Jenny, if you guys are part of Marielle's, let me start there, Millionaire Mentor group, she brings on Jenny Greer a lot. Her dad started this company. And when I first started, if you were elite or above, we got training with her. Well, then I actually hired her to be my business coach to help me go from silver to gold. And this is what she presented me with and Tara with. And it says overall September volume because that's when I was trying to hit it. I hit it in October. So there's something to this and inspecting what to expect out of your month. So happy March. It's March 2nd, right? So this can get really complicated, or we can just leave it really simple. And any questions you have about your specific numbers, I'm happy to help you in Messenger. Anything that is good for the whole, when I post this recording, you can put it under. So this is the bucket sheet. Basically what you are looking at per month or per quarter is what was your ending volume of last month, and then what is your goal volume. And I do want to put a little disclaimer about goal fatigue and continuing to set volume goals and not reaching them. So don't place your worth on volume. Place your, I don't even say your worth, because everyone's worthy no matter what you do in this business, but place your consistency and discipline and all of that on how you show up every day to move the needle in your business. But we are in business and we have to look at numbers. And so if you are like I was, bronze trying to get to silver, you would write your volume from February in this top line, and you would write the volume you would like to get. And it doesn't have to be a rank, okay? So I love that we now have Executive Plus and Elite Plus, but before that, sometimes we would have to fall in between ranks. And a lot of times at bronze, because silver is more than doubling volume from 10 to 25, that means you might want to land at 20. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a rank, but it does have to be sort of a number based on this idea of duplicating, right? So we don't try to recruit everyone and their mom and grandma that we know. If we have a couple people who need to make a paycheck, we help them get a paycheck. And if by helping them make a paycheck, that means someone else comes in within their organization to do the same, then that's duplication down, right? So then you do the simple math. If you are straight bronze, 10,000, you're trying to get to silver because you guys have a lot of recruits within your organization and that's possible, then you write down 25,000 and the difference would be 15,000. If you are pro and you're trying to get to executive, Okay, so let's say you ended up with 700. You hit pro. That's great. This is the team building side, remember? And you need 1,500. So then that difference is 800. And so you'd write that here. Okay, and that's just a visual so you know. All right, if you do not have the little graphic that shows you the minimum and maximum you need for each rank, then message me for that as well, or I can just post it. All right, these are the actual buckets. And this is all about intentionality and communicating with the people working within your organization. Whether you brought them in, whether someone placed them there, whether you brought someone in who they partnered with that person, it doesn't matter, all volume counts, okay? So we'll get back to this first bucket. And then we have 3 buckets because you guys, we only ever build 3 wide. Now, the way Tara has trained me and the way I work within my organization is I tell people going, we don't want 3 legs until we're going from bronze to silver. If you've been taught or told or did it differently, perfect. But the way I train is we want to have 2 even buckets of 5,000, 5,000 to get to bronze. And then we basically do that all over again in this little bucket over here. Okay. So this is just a visual tool. And then you can get caught up in what these things mean, but this is a tool for you. This is not a homework assignment. All right, here comes Nugget. Just be prepared. So let's say that you have had a really steady business the last couple months. You can figure out what your average is. Are you always hovering around 900 in volume? You know, we want to look at convention bumps. We want to look at months where like February happens and there's 3 fewer days in the month. So we're going to have a little bit lower volume. But what's sort of your average since December? You can write that here. That is for your specific leg 1. Okay, so we wrote it in general at the top and then specifically in leg 1. So I can tell you based on looking at my dashboard, leg 1, what volume is generally in there, where I can be like, oh, I'm coming up short this month, or oh, I far exceeded it from last month. Okay, so that's what you write here. Now, this is where you break it down by leg. All right, and so for bronze, it's easy. It's 50-50. You need a minimum of 5,000. So that would be your target volume. Where did you end in that leg the month prior? That was your ending volume. Your target volume is what you need. And so now you're starting to think of your volume in terms of orders or ambassadors that come into your organization. So I was talking to someone about her business and she said, yeah, I have an organization of executives. So when she's bringing people in, of course, there are people that break the mold. Some people don't hit executive and some people hit a lead or bronze or more. So on average, though, every person she brings into her organization has about 1,500 of volume eventually attached to them. And so that's another way to think of this. But essentially all you're doing, again, I can get really into the minutia with this, but I just want you to think about it in general. Think about who your leaders are, your core leaders. This isn't rank based. A leader isn't based on a certain rank. A willingness to do and be coachable and replicate, has that drive and energy. When you message them, they're not taking 72 hours to get back to you. Okay. They've actually moved past discouragement. They missed a rank. They missed a pay. They had someone quit on them. And their words and actions align. You know, there's 2 types of people that I work with in this. They're the yes, I'm going to do that. And then, you know, life gets in the way. Or when you say, well, have you thought about this? It's a million excuses why that won't work. You know, those types of people, they need lots of love, lots of encouragement, lots of consistent checking on them, but they're not going to be the people that are going to help you get to your next rank. So those are the core leaders we're talking about. So I want you to think about your leg 1 and who are the core leaders in your leg 1. Think about your leg 2. Who are your core leaders in the leg 2? Then you have to go have a conversation with them. And you have to see what their season of life is this month. And you have to see if they believe based on their numbers, if they are going to maintain rank, if they are going to show up and do IPAs 4, 5, 6 times a week. You can gauge a lot, and all of this is very fluid and malleable, but I will give you a tool right when we're done to start those conversations. So I'm in a lot of different group chats and I see a lot of leaders say, hey, let me know what y'all's goals are. And I would encourage you to go to every single person that is an ambassador in your organization and ask them specifically, what does your month look like? Just like we do on a launch, about how many hours per week this month do you think you're working? And then I have these tools for you going to show you of what they can do within those hours to move the needle in their business. But what we don't want and what this helps us avoid, right? This is called inspecting what to expect. What this helps us avoid is thinking the person who ran to platinum last month is going to run to ruby this month, or the person who ran to bronze last month wants to maintain bronze. Well, maybe they can't work as much for whatever reason this month. So it wouldn't be very business minded to think that they're going to maintain that rank. And rank, all it is an indicator of the pay. It means nothing else other than pay, and there's a volume attached to it. So if you have your core leaders, you can have, someone is unmuted, so just double check that. That way, you know, you're not, gosh, I talk about this every time this happens. I was on a recording, literally screaming at my son to get in bed. It was Marielle who was leading it, and someone messaged me and was like, you're not muted. So anyway, I was like, oops, all right. So it's more your protection than mine. But anyway, so with that, having those conversations and truly seeing, now you can't duplicate volume and you can't double count your volume, I should say. So what that means is if I'm talking to Amy and she wants to be bronze, so I'm like, that's 10,000 in volume. That is going to satisfy my one leg for me to get to silver. That's great. And then underneath Amy is someone named Becky. And I don't know if Becky DeBode's on here. Becky's just always my B name. I go ABC when I'm naming people. So if I talk to Becky and Becky wants to go elite, I can't then count 4,500. That elite's going to help Amy get to bronze. So that doesn't count twice. You don't have to talk to the person at the top of your leg. You could be talking to, if they're not working or whatever, you can be talking to a core leader down within your organization. You just don't want to be counting volume twice. So I hope that makes sense. All right, so then let's talk about what this shows us. If I'm trying to get to silver, 25,000, and I talk to Amy and she's in for bronze, and then we're gonna have a Zoom on how that is gonna look like, what that's gonna look like, how that's gonna happen for her. That's the next step. But right now, if we're filling out the buckets, inspecting what to expect, 10,000 in this bucket, boom. Over here, I have a couple people on different parts of that leg, and one wants to be elite and one wants to be executive, okay? 4,500 plus 1,500 is 6,000. Add those together, right? I'm short in that leg of that 10 or 7,500, just depending on what my leg 3 is going to look like. I'm short. I like to try to hit the maximums. So 10,000, I need 4,000. Okay, what does that look like? That looks like bringing in someone somewhere in my organization and helping them get to elite, just so I can get back to bronze, because this person's not going to run again this month. They're having a baby, something like that. Okay, they're on vacation for 2 weeks. All things that are and should be and are lovely priorities. So with that, now I know I need to step up my game and put my potentials that I've been talking to. And if you've listened to Marielle, she talks about class A potentials. Tara talks about tracking those in this accountability group. And remember what they are. They're people you've talked to in the last 60 days and that you've had a conversation and they are definitely interested and they've seen something and then not ghosted you, okay? Those are your class A's and they're all sitting in this bucket. And we're just figuring out how to follow up with them so that we can move them from this bucket that doesn't count into this bucket where I figure out I need 4,000 in volume because Becky doesn't want to run for bronze again. She's fine hitting elite this month. And I only know that because I had a conversation with her. Okay. And then over here, this is where if I'm trying to get to silver, that means I need 5,000. So that's basically an elite on her way to elite plus. So then I need to go back to this bucket and who else? Who else can I help run to elite? or who else can I help run to whatever, and then whoever they bring, I help. So this is just a way for you to set realistic SMART goals, right? The R in SMART is realistic. It is on a time frame, right? But at the same time, be very wary of goal fatigue. So that is the general overview of buckets. You don't have to have the specific sheet. But again, I talk to so many people each month and they're like, I want to be silver by this date. And I'm like, okay, how many hours do you have? And how do you plan on spending them? Making reels, not going to be as profitable in turning things into conversations. Conversations are converted to customers and ambassadors. So really hammering all that out. That's why I like this. You have to think about where your numbers ended. You have to think about where they're going. And then you have to figure out who are the major players in your organization and how much do they account for? And then what am I lacking? So how much do I have to put in to bring in new volume? And then that allows me to figure out if I'm going to walk, run, or sprint. So let me stop sharing. I hope this makes sense. I can't fix that right now, but let me share screen again. And the amazing Ashley Garcia made these 3 graphics. I'm going to show you real quick. And I still haven't figured out after 4 years how to share them all at once. So this is something that also I can send people. The speed of your business. If you're good, if you just brought in some people who are going to run you past the volume you need, you might just be walking this month. This is also a great tool when you're talking to people. They're like, I really do. I want to hit Elite Plus. I don't want to stay at Elite. You're like, okay, well, here is based on the hours you have, this is what you're going to do when you sit down to carved out queue time, okay? This has stuff like be a product of the product, and then using social media, but also expanding your network. Katie Tufte does an amazing job talking about IPAs as well, and how much is put into expanding her network and then warming them up, because then you never run out of people to talk to and serve, right? And then it has some things about reach outs. There are so many ways to reach out to people based on what you're trying to funnel them into. Is it a product testimony group? Is it a call that's happening? Is it a PDF that you just want to send them because they've been complaining about dang not sleeping forever? So this is a concrete thing that when you're going to your core leaders and saying, what are your goals this month? Okay, this is what we're going to do. So you can actually do some of these things with them on a 10-minute Zoom with that same conversation. So there's also, and you'll, like I said, if you need these, I can send them, and you'll see there's a couple more things added when you're running. Okay, there's things like personal development, and there's things like what she has labeled as investing into podcasts and trainings. Katie Tufte does. I have a whole boards app with more trainings because like I said, I'm a lifelong learner, so I love these things. And I feel like a lot of what we get trained on to run this business is applicable in so much of life. And then look, if you're running, if you are trying to make up a lot of volume because you figure that out and you need more people into that first personal recruit bucket, then scheduling 3 events in a row, the power of 3 is huge. And there's actually a training on that by Sarah Spencer in Q Sciences. Yes, I have a photographic memory, so I can randomly remember things like that. Now, last is the sprint. This is like you're gung-ho. You are trying to make that huge leap from bronze to silver. And again, I use these in launching too. If people come in and they're like, yeah, in 6 weeks, I need to be making $4,000. Like, all right, sister, we got to sprint, and this is what we're going to do. And if you need skill building on any of these hashtags, well, then I have all of these trainings here, but we don't want to be in that arena, which I can get stuck in, of just consuming information as an educator and learner. We need to get into action. We need to be a promoter. That way we can bring people into our business, because that's what the book showed us we needed. So it has all the same things. It's just a higher volume. Instead of bringing 5 people in, if you're walking, you're bringing 20 people in and things like that. And then also, as a sprinter, you're going to want to be really honed in on placement strategy, and also how to run reports in the back office. So I have about 6 minutes to anything that wasn't clear, anything that you want to ask. I know it's always awkward, especially if I don't know you personally, but I do know several of you personally. Just any questions in general, if you want to pick my brain or if you need to hop off, feel free to hop off. I will post this recording. And then any questions there, but hopefully a couple major things stuck with you. Hope is why we get into this business and having those dreams. And I am a huge believer of having those dreams, but hope, as Tara always says, is not a strategy. This is a strategy. Looking at numbers, seeing the numbers you need, understanding what that means and the breakdown, looking at who's already in your organization, what that volume accounts for, and then you realizing that phase one is bringing in how many people to what rank will actually help you get to the next rank. And then having all these tools that help with the skill building and also with those conversations. I really, really want to have an organization of people who have those conversations. Yes, I will share those. I can just put them in. I'll ask Ashley's permission because they're hers, but I'll put them in our accountability group as long as she says it's fine. Is there anything else? Oh, you're fine, Jeff. This is so low key. Like I said, my kid's down here, and so I'm used to background noise constantly. If I've ever sent you a voice message, you hear little Jakey in the background usually. So anyway, well, if there's something else, you guys, I will ask Ashley for permission. If not, we'll just ask for forgiveness and I will DM them to you personally. How about that? Don't arrest me. All right, it was so good to see you guys. I talked to Tara today, and I think she's going to be back next week with either a live training on Zoom or she's going to do a training that we post next Thursday. So we'll get to see her beautiful face. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.